Since Minecraft 1.14, villagers have changed quite a bit. There's a lot of new mechanics and features, which means we can do a bunch of stuff we could only have daydreamed of before. Particularly, these guys' new AI opens up some fun new party tricks. Allow me to show you some of my favourites. So subscribe if you like what you see. I'm Simply Sark, and today we're going to enslave villagers in various ways, kind of just for the fun of it. Like I said, a lot of this has to do with AI, so let me give you a quick debrief on what we're working with. These new workstations double as job sites. Villagers use them to become employed. You're familiar with these, but these are beds, and villagers use them as their home. And these are bells. You're only supposed to use them in emergencies, but we'll be using them for a little bit more than that. They force villagers to stop what they're currently doing. It's always great to have someone wait on you hand and foot. So the first thing I'm going to show you is an upgrade to something I demonstrated ages ago, a fully functional drawbridge. So the older version works by plopping some Frostwalker boots on an armor stand and using slime and ice to skid it across water. This new version works similar in principle, but the biggest flaw of the old one was how short the bridge could be. That is no longer a problem. We start by giving a villager Frostwalker boots. They won't pick them up off the ground, but if you use a dispenser, it'll equip them anyway. This is when we'll use our simplest bit of AI. In the daytime, villagers tend to stick around their job site. They'll stay fairly still unless you trick them into thinking there's a raid. Ringing a bell will force all villagers to drop what they're doing and return home to hide. If there is a villager within 32 blocks of a rung bell, and that villager can locate a bed within another 32 blocks of themselves, they'll hastily run towards it. This is how the bridge works. On one side, you have the gate master. On the other side, there's the guest, us. The gate master has been assigned a job, so stays at his post. On our end, we have a bed. The bell can be anywhere, next to us, or maybe even atop the gate master. Once that bell's rung, he'll make a beeline to the bed. A short while after ringing, the gate master will realise he's fallen for your lame prank and will return to his post. You may now accompany him across the body of water to the other side. You might think this is a little frivolous because you could just use Frostwalker boots yourself to cross, but a lot of people don't really like using that enchant on their main gear. Plus, your friends are going to think your base is at least 20% cooler with a working drawbridge. Next up, there's a pretty minor feature with villagers that has some fantastic aesthetical uses. To make quality of life easier on the player, villagers now hold up items they're trading. If you have the correct item they want, they'll hold up the item they'll give you for it. If they have multiple eligible trades, they'll cycle through all of them. What interested me about this is that you have a perfectly miniaturized item that's also properly oriented and completely static, unlike in most other cases. If you could control this, it'd open up a ton of opportunities for detailing. But can we do it? The first hurdle is the cycling. You don't really want your mini items to keep morphing into something else. Fortunately, there's an easy way to solve this. Villagers only display available trades, so if you max out a trade, it will be removed from the rotation. Villagers restock their trades a few times a day by interacting with their job site, so if you prevent them from doing this, you can permanently lock trades. The next problem is villagers like to move, quite a lot. We need to keep them still. I tried minecarts, which stop them moving, but not rotating. Another attempt was shoving a glass pane in their face. This stops them moving and rotating, but unfortunately, villagers actually require a line of sight to activate their little roulette, so it's a no-go. The best option is thus boats, which will keep them still, but also prevents them from rotating their bodies. The first use that sprung to my mind was a fancy shop display. When you enter a fine establishment, ready to spend your emeralds, whatever is in stock will be displayed on a counter. Set up a system to fire an invisibility splash potion when customers enter the store, and you've got a pretty sweet little thing going. I wanted to see if you could control this a bit more, so that it's not just a static display. The boat is a bit of a problem, because they're not as easy to control as a minecart. Very fortunately, however, there's a weird quirk with specifically villagers and boats that lets them be picked up by minecarts. This means you can effectively keep them stationary and still be able to move them around. Though, to be honest, I don't really like this solution much. There's already a lot of bulk to contend with, and this just adds to it. I wanted something lighter and less clunky. Back to AI. There is actually a way to manipulate the item display. In some situations, villagers won't activate the roulette. When it's nighttime, when there's a raid, and when you ring that bell. While in effect, the item won't show up. If you set up a bell 32 blocks beneath a villager, you can disable certain items from displaying. So if an item goes out of stock, you could automatically have it turn off on the counter. Plus, at 32 blocks away, it can't be heard, so it's silent too. We're now going to get a little deeper into that whole AI business. Historically, we've never been able to control mobs that well. There's been some rudimental tricks to get mobs to move in certain ways, but they're always a bit clunky. Now though, we have something quite impressive. You can basically script villagers' movements. So we touched on this earlier, but I want to show you the level of fidelity we now have to make villagers go where we want. This has everything to do with jobs. Villagers don't like being unemployed, so they'll always be on the lookout for any new postings that pop up. As we've seen, villagers tend to stick around their job site during the working hours. But what happens when a villager has a job and they lose it? In fact, how does a villager lose a job? The mechanic is quite simple. They always need a clear path to their job sites. A line of sight isn't necessary, but the villager has to be within 32 blocks, and they also need a valid route towards their job site. If one of these becomes untrue, they'll get fired. So if you simply take that essential job block and put it out of reach, they'll no longer be allowed to keep it. But here's where it gets interesting. What if another job becomes available after their old one is revoked? Well, they'll take it up, because they don't like being unemployed. The side effect is that the villager will establish a pathway to their new job and immediately start walking towards it. Suddenly, we have the power to make mobs move in very intentional and nuanced ways. There's a ton of ways you can use this, but I love the idea of simulating a proper, living, breathing population. By default, villagers just randomly wander around, but with this great mechanic, you can script villagers to have their own unique lives and routines. A blacksmith could meet up with a mason at dawn to discuss business plans, then head to the mines to gather resources, then head to his forge to start work. Sunday is his day off, so you write in an exception, and he spends the day in the park instead. With intelligently scripted individuals, you can take your lonely, empty worlds and turn them into immersive living spaces. Kind of like that movie, The Truman Show, where everyone's living this big, fake, scripted life. Could be kind of cool. This next idea I want to show you is actually one of my favourites of the lot. So we've spoken a little about pathfinding, but I want to show you something else you can do with it. Totally different, but crazy cool potential. Now, villagers need a path to take up a job, but they actually like to choose the shortest one available. If one is nearer than another, they'll always opt for the easier route. Here's the interesting part. This opens up some powerful possibilities for block detection. Traditionally, if you want to detect blocks, you'll need a bud or an observer, but these are rigid and only work in specific predetermined places. With pathfinding, you have quite a bit more freedom. Here, we have a chasm, and we want to detect when a player creates a valid bridge. Perhaps you're making a fun little adventure map-like experience for your friends. Behind the scenes, this villager has taken up a job, 32 steps away from his job site. But there's a problem. We've confused his pathfinding into thinking the way is clear when he's in fact obstructed. There are a few ways to do this. Trapdoors mess with their AI, as do carpets. You can even use boats, which are actually a very good choice because they're not blocks, which is the main thing a pathfinding mob is actually looking out for. If the villager likes to take the shortest route possible, what happens when a more attractive path becomes available? Well, they change their mind. In our scenario, the system can detect not just a single configuration, but a whole host of them. People like to build stuff in unpredictable ways, but this mechanic can handle that very well. This is just one example, but you could apply it to all sorts of situations. For a true dystopian Minecraft world, you'll need greater control over your villager population, so it's probably a good idea to invest in some tracking and spying devices. Like that, you can keep tabs on everyone and maybe lower certain scores where necessary. If you're a big fan of management games, you're really going to like this next one. Villagers are keen to get a new job, but what about when there aren't any available? Or what about if there aren't enough jobs to go around? And what if they've not got the right degree for it? What I haven't mentioned yet is that villagers can't always take a new job posting, even if it's available. Villagers have two types of careers, jobs and professions. Jobs are when they're employed, but professions are normally more deep set. A villager can only switch professions if they've never been traded with before. If they have, they're permanently locked into it. This is interesting behaviour, and we can do something kind of neat with it. For one, you could expand on that earlier idea with scripting villager routines. Each villager would lead a different lifestyle, and they wouldn't interfere with one another because they're uninterested in jobs unrelated to their own profession. But what you can also do is track a few statistics about your townsfolk. Here's how it works. Each villager is assigned a secret shadow counterpart. These are villagers with the same profession, but which are otherwise unemployed. They can't take a job because the position is currently filled. But these guys are desperate and will happily steal a job the second they get the opportunity. What does this mean for us? Well, if anything happens to the main villager, the shadow counterpart will quickly realise this, steal the job, and try and pathfind towards the job site, activating a redstone signal. Essentially, you can track the status of your population. If a villager is killed, stolen, or maybe falls in a hole, which would break its pathway, its job will be taken, and you can translate that into redstone. For example, and this is so neat, you could create a population monitoring system that gave you a live feed of the status of your villagers. You'd be immediately notified if something happened to any of them, and you could swiftly intervene to help them out. Or not, just watch the raid unwind and cruelly laugh as the lights go out one by one. But these were just a few of my favourite ways to enslave Minecraft villagers. I'm sure there's plenty more twisted ideas yet to be discovered. Either way, I sincerely hope you enjoyed and found these fun and interesting. But as always, I've been Simply Suck. Cheers once again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.